Graham has requested me on Patreon to review the movie Hair, based on the stage musical about the hippie movement of the late 60s. The musical premiered on stage in 1967, although the main thing I know about it is the ruckus caused by its use of nudity. One of Diane Keaton's early roles was even in the original Broadway run, where she refused to take her clothes off for that infamous scene. Eventually, this film version of Hair was released in 1979 and was directed by Milos Forman. I first saw the movie some years ago, and it did not leave much of an impression, which is surprising as I've liked everything else I've seen from Forman, but I was willing to give it another look. However, watching the movie again, it's clear why Hair underwhelmed me, and it's largely because of the characters. While the film is supposed to present this sympathetic portrait of the hippies and their almost carefree lifestyles they oppose capitalism and war, I personally found them to be kind of insufferable. If you look at a lot of Milos Forman's other movies, he seemed to have a fondness for telling stories about eccentric but talented people who shock the establishment with their behavior. Even with the obvious flaws presented, you still come away rooting for them and hoping they succeed. With Hair, there's never a moment where I end up liking these characters. This begins with a hippie leader, Berger. He's meant to be this charming, devil-may-care fellow, and Treat Williams attempts to play him that way, but I struggle to get on his side. For example, there's a scene where he and the other hippies crash this private dinner party held by a rich family, and the idea is obviously they were supposed to side with these free-spirited youngsters over the stuffy rich people. But Berger acts so obnoxious when told to leave, and even starts dancing on the table and destroying things. As a result, the reactions from the rich family and others at this party are completely understandable. We later find out that the hippie Hud is a deadbeat father who prefers to hang out with his friends than take care of his young son, and I'm confused why we're supposed to like these people. I'm completely on the side of his fiancée and her frustrations with him. Honestly, I found the most sympathetic person in Hair to be the brother of Beverly D'Angelo's character, whose annoyance to the hippies and his reactions to them are entirely justified. At a certain point, I even wondered if this was meant to be a satire of the hippie culture, but no, I think the intent is to like them. It's telling that I've not even mentioned the main character Claude yet, as there's not a lot to him. He has very little personality and is just someone who gets roped into the hippie lifestyle as he deals with being called to serve in Vietnam. I understand the idea is he's meant to be an avatar for the audience, but I just did not find it believable that he would become charmed by the hippies and some of the things that Berger does to him. I know I'm knocking a lot about the movie, but I don't think it's bad. Milos Forman actually does a decent job of his direction, including the musical numbers. The songs are great and are directed and edited with the needed energy. Songs like Age of Aquarius and Let the Sunshine In have become famous and iconic for a reason. One of the best moments in the movie is the song Easy to Be Hard, which is performed by Hud's fiancée after she confronts him about taking care of his son. Cheryl Barnes actually performed the scene in one take, which was used in the finished film, and she captures the emotions her character is feeling. I do have to confess, though, that when I hear the song Good Morning Starshine, I think of Willy Wonka quoting it in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Meanwhile, there's a bizarre song number titled Black Boys, White Boys, where a couple men get ogled at, which maybe was relevant in the musical, but it's a strange detour in the movie. Finally, it's at the end of the movie that Hair seems to make a point about the needless task of sending soldiers off to war they don't want to fight, and where they take one character in particular is interesting and terribly ironic. But through the 2 hours, I never grew to truly care about these characters. However, it should be noted the movie apparently changed a lot from the stage musical, including song placements, plot details, and character descriptions. So much was altered that Jerome Ragney and James Rado, the original creators of the musical, did not even consider this film to be a proper adaptation. They were particularly annoyed of how the hippies were depicted, feeling the filmmakers saw them as just oddballs and that they struggled to highlight how they tried to present the message of peace. As you can tell from this review, I'm 100% in agreement with the creators. I actually would like to see a more faithful film adaptation of the stage musical. It would certainly provide an interesting perspective looking back at the hippie movement several decades later, and with the knowledge that many of them would even turn into capitalists when the 80s rolled around. However, while it's disappointing the movie, I know it does have its admirers. Gene Siskel even named it his #1 movie of 1979. So if you've seen Hair, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for the request, Graham.